Everyone, thank you for joining me. So the theme of trees is coming up a lot in my mind, and I'm trying to think of the best way to bring it forward. And the main thing is that they carry with them, as you all know, I'm sure, a lot of wisdom and a lot of um, kind of a patient energy. They can live many years, of course, right? And when you tune into the vibrations, they actually have a consciousness, just like every other being, just like every other plant, every blade of grass has a consciousness, which is basically a state of being and a state of awareness. So they may not have a brain to think like us, but they have a sense of, they have a presence, and they do have a level of awareness which creates a purpose for them on this planet. And sometimes their individual purpose, like if I tune in, one tree might be more to help protect some other trees. Sometimes they are there to help bring more energy to a certain area, like elevate the consciousness, which may sound a little strange, but there's no mistake when certain trees are planted in certain areas, even certain weeds planted in certain areas. They have a purpose. They're medicinal, and sometimes their consciousness is helping humans in a certain way by being planted in that area. So I feel like the best way to describe a tree consciousness is like a Buddha type energy, or even like a Christ consciousness, whatever you feel that kind of represents that very obviously grounded and peaceful energy and wise energy. And another thing I know about trees is that they're very forgiving, because they can be cut down for very selfish reasons, for human selfish reasons, to make space for development. And trees, just like humans, have some level of it's like the soul of the tree, or the consciousness of the tree already knows when it's time to let go. Just like if it gets cut down or if it gets pushed over by a storm, the tree is not attached to its life, and it's not scared at all. And you might think, well, it's a tree, so why would it be scared? But, animals have feelings, right? I feel in some ways animals are more evolved because they're in the present moment and they're not as worried about things like death like humans are. So same goes for trees. In some ways, they are more evolved. They can be more wise than us. And I've had this experience where the house that I used to live in had a lot of fruit trees planted, and my dad took care of them for many years. And when the house was sold, the trees were all cut down, and it really broke my heart, because I didn't expect that, and I don't feel like I warned energetically, telepathically warned the trees this might happen, and I didn't properly say goodbye to them. I felt very sad and very angry at the people who did it, and I had to really tune in. So the truth is, the trees already knew. It was in their destiny in some way, that they knew that, at some point they won't be able to stand there much longer. And they served a purpose for a long time. They were, on a corner lot, and they were admired and taken care of and loved by the people in the house, and well, including me, and by people who would pass by to admire all the fruits that they were providing. But at some point, they also had this awareness that this is not forever, and we are going to have to transform into something else sooner or later. They knew this. But I had to tune in, and their consciousness still lives. I was really sad, but I realized their consciousness still lives, so they are okay. It's just I had to tune in to the fact that the energy of the trees is transformed. And if you believe in elementals, fairies, gnomes, those are the elementals of things like forests and trees and plants. And they take care and they protect. So what happened is that those energies took over the consciousnesses of the trees, and they live on in those energies. So the trees live on in some way, but they just no longer could be there because their purpose was served, and the new owners would not appreciate them anymore the way they were appreciated for years before. So their time was done, but they were not attached, right? They knew that it was time to go. So we can learn a lot from trees because they are very much at peace with whatever happens, and they might be hundreds of years old, but if they know that their time is up, they're not, their consciousness is at peace with that. They understand that their energy needs to go somewhere else. So as humans, being afraid of death can be quite almost like we need to step back and realize, is death really the end? Is cutting down the tree really the end of that tree, or is it being transformed? So being transformed into another level of consciousness is what's actually happening. And as humans, we can move into other dimensions, and we may reincarnate into another human form or some other form, right? So it's just, the tree really teaches us to be present with where they are and what's happening, and being okay with moving on. They teach us forgiveness. So the tree never held any resentment to the selfishness of the humans. They also provide a protective energy to the surroundings if needed in the area, so they can protect each other, but they can also create a protective energy for the inhabitants of the area, both animals and humans. They communicate with each other. This is known that from many kilometers away, the root systems do communicate, and they, if one tree is cut down, the rest of them feel it. And this is a very interesting thing because it shows, they're teaching us again how we're all connected. We are all one, right? So the impact of a human experience can ripple, even if the other humans around don't know what's going on. Like, for example, a mom and their child, if the child is grown up and, going through their own experience, the mom will usually know when something is going on or something's wrong with that child without having spoken to them, because the consciousnesses are connected. There's a connection, right? So trees are the same. So the more we understand the very significant presence of these trees, their consciousness is very strong, the more we can have respect for these beautiful beings that they are. And I'm not saying they're any better than any other plant, but they have a certain specific kind of energy, and they provide us with very specific lessons because of their wise and their wisdom and ability to live for so many years. There's a reason why they live for so long, right? They are here to teach us. So it is perfectly normal if you have a tree near you that gets cut down and you feel like you want to mourn. I've had that experience, not aside from the house that was sold. I was in another area, and I would always go to a tree in this little forest, and I would just sit with it, lean on it and feel it, and it would always help me ground. And one day I saw an X spray painted on it, and I said, oh God, it's going to be cut down. And a huge part of me was just angry, because I was like, is it, maybe there's a reason, maybe there was a bug in it and it was sick, and most likely that's what it was, because it was just in a forest. There wasn't any development going on there. And it made me really sad one day when I just saw the stump. At that point, I wasn't aware of like elementals and gnomes and fairies, but I was aware somehow that the presence of that tree was still existing in some way. And I didn't quite understand what it was. I was very sad, but I realized, like, it's like our memory of something also allows it to continue to exist. And it's almost like we are also, like, even with a human that dies. Oops, sorry. Okay. Even with a human that dies, the memory of that human allows it, the consciousness of that human, to be even stronger, right? Because our memories of things actually amplify the existence of those things. If this is more into quantum physics and stuff, but basically, without our memory and our vision and our hearing and all that, does anything really exist? This is a whole other topic. But what is real is energy. And our perception of it creates a lot of what we see and feel and know. And basically, with anything, we can choose to pretend that what I just said is not real, and trees have no consciousness, and there is no such thing. You can choose that. You can also choose to believe that everything is energy and everything is real and everything's transformed, and certain beings have certain lessons for us. And trees are very profound in that way. So I guess that's all I really wanted to say about that. And I am going to, I think the next video will be just me communicating with specific trees, because we can receive specific messages from trees, and they're all very different in character. Just like humans are very unique, trees are very unique. And they will usually, like, if you're drawn to one specific tree, it's probably because it has a specific energy that you need to learn, to channel through you, you may need to communicate with it. You know what? If you don't believe all this, the only way to really know is to try and sit with a tree and just feel. And feel the energy of it. And as soon as you start to feel anything, trust that it is something to do with your connection to the energy of that tree. You might just feel, well, the roots are grounded, and that's what's causing me to feel more grounded. And and that might be the most you do. But once you start to realize and open yourself up to the possibility of the fact that they can communicate with you, it takes you to a whole other level. So that's all. I'm gonna continue on maybe with that now. So I'm gonna end this video. If you're like, okay, I don't need to believe this, it's all good, it's okay. But if you like the video, please click like, and I will continue on in the next one. Thank you for listening. See you soon.